Look at your hands. Look at the calluses, the fatigue in your eyes, the constant low-level anxiety thrumming in your chest. You have played by the rules. You wake up early. You grind. You sacrifice your weekends. You trade your life energy, hour by hour, for a paycheck. Society has drilled a very specific equation into your skull since the day you were born. Hard work equals wealth. But let us be brutally honest for a moment. Look around you. The people working the hardest, the ones doing the heavy lifting, the double shifts, the grueling physical and mental labor, are usually the ones struggling the most. They are drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, terrified of an unexpected medical bill. Meanwhile, there is another class of people. They do not seem to sweat. They work, yes, but they do not struggle. Opportunities seem to bend to their will. Capital flows into their accounts almost effortlessly. You watch them and you feel a dark, bitter emotion rising in your chest. You think the game is rigged. You think it is about nepotism, luck, or corruption. But what if the game is not rigged by the system? What if the game is rigged by your own biology? What if everything you have been taught about making money is fundamentally, biologically, and psychologically wrong? Welcome to Clean Slate Audiobook. Today, we are decoding the unseen architecture of wealth. We are dissecting The Principles of Riches by David J. Steele. But we are not going to talk about mystical forces or wishful thinking. We are going to examine the cold, hard science of human perception, cognitive filtering, and the psychological frequency of money. Prepare to rewire your operating system. The greatest lie of the modern era is the cult of the hustle. We have glorified exhaustion. We measure a man's worth by how much he suffers for his income. But wealth is not a reward for suffering. The market does not care how tired you are. The market only responds to value, and more importantly, the market responds to the psychological state from which that value is delivered. David J. Steele introduces a concept that makes highly logical, rational people very uncomfortable. He calls it the frequency of wealth. When people hear the word frequency or vibration, they immediately think of New Age spirituality. They roll their eyes. But let us translate this concept into the language of neuroscience and behavioral economics. Everything in the universe, at a quantum level, is in a state of motion. But we don't need to go to quantum physics to understand this. We only need to look at the human brain. Your brain operates on specific electromagnetic frequencies: alpha, beta, theta, delta. When you are stressed, terrified of losing your job, and anxious about rent, your brain is locked in a high beta state. This is the frequency of survival. When you are in a survival state, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, hijacks your prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for strategic thinking, long-term planning, creativity, and recognizing complex patterns. It is the CEO of your mind. But when you are stressed about money, the CEO is locked in the basement. Your brain shifts all its energy to scanning the environment for immediate, short-term threats. This biological mechanism explains why desperate people make terrible financial decisions. Have you ever noticed that when you absolutely need money, you can never seem to make it? You take bad deals. You accept a lower salary than you are worth. You make impulsive investments hoping for a quick lottery ticket out of your misery. You reek of desperation. In negotiations, desperation is an odor. It is a micro-expression. It is the pitch of your voice. When you walk into a room to pitch a client or ask for a raise from a state of scarcity, the other person's subconscious mind instantly detects your fear. They sense that you need them more than they need you. Instantly, your perceived value drops to zero. You have lost the negotiation before you even opened your mouth. This is what Steele means by operating on the wrong frequency. You are operating from a state of force. Force implies resistance. You are trying to push a boulder up a mountain. You are trying to extract money from the world through sheer willpower and friction. But force always creates an equal and opposite counterforce. The harder you push from a place of fear, the more the world pushes back. To understand how to fix this, we must look at a specific bundle of nerves at the base of your brainstem, called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. The RAS is the bouncer at the nightclub of your consciousness. In any given second, your senses are bombarded with millions of bits of data. Every sound, every color, every piece of text, every passing conversation. If your conscious mind had to process all of this, your brain would overheat and shut down in a matter of minutes. So, the RAS filters the world for you. It blocks out 99.9% of reality and only lets in the information that it believes is important to you. How does the RAS know what is important? It looks at your dominant beliefs. If you buy a red sports car, suddenly, you see that exact same red car everywhere you go. On the highway, in parking lots, in movies. Did thousands of people suddenly buy that car on the same day? No, the cars were always there. But before you bought one, your RAS deemed them irrelevant and deleted them from your visual field. The moment you assigned value to the red car, your RAS changed its filtering parameters. It started pulling that specific pattern out of the chaos of reality and presenting it to your conscious mind. Now, apply this biological fact to wealth. If your deep, subconscious programming is built on poverty, if your dominant thoughts are, money is hard to get, rich people are corrupt, I will never have enough, and the economy is collapsing, what do you think your reticular activating system is going to do? It will do exactly what it is programmed to do. It will filter reality to prove you right. It will highlight every piece of bad news. It will draw your attention to every financial failure. And most tragically, it will literally make you blind to opportunity. A multi-million-dollar opportunity could be sitting across from you at a coffee shop. A gap in the market could be staring you in the face. A potential business partner could be offering you the deal of a lifetime. But because your RAS is tuned to the frequency of scarcity, it deletes that information. You will not see it. You will not hear it. You will walk right past it, go back to your desk, and complain that the world is unfair. You are not unlucky. You are functionally blind. Your operating system is programmed to keep you poor because that is the reality you have instructed it to construct. This brings us to the core of the frequency effect. Wealth is not created by changing what you do. It is created by changing how you perceive the world. You must recalibrate your internal filter. The transition from poverty to wealth is the transition from a state of force to a state of flow. People who operate on the frequency of wealth do not chase money. They understand a fundamental psychological law. Money is a byproduct of value creation, and value creation requires a mind that is at peace, creative, and observant. When you shift your internal frequency from scarcity to abundance, you quiet the amygdala. You unlock the prefrontal cortex. You tell your reticular activating system, opportunities are everywhere, and I am capable of capturing them. Suddenly, the static clears. You start seeing the red cars of wealth. You notice a problem in your industry that everyone else is complaining about, but instead of joining the complaints, your brain instantly generates a profitable solution. You walk into a negotiation not needing the deal, which gives you the ultimate leverage, the power to walk away. And paradoxically, the moment you no longer desperately need the money, people become eager to give it to you. You are no longer fighting the current. You are riding it. But to reach this state, you must first face the darkest parts of your own mind. You must confront the invisible thermostat that has been secretly controlling your bank account since childhood. You must understand why, even when you do make money, you almost always find a way to lose it. The enemy is not the economy. The enemy is the programming. The enemy is not the economy. The enemy is the programming. To dismantle this programming, we must look beyond motivation and enter the cold, unforgiving realm of systems theory. Specifically, a branch of science known as cybernetics. Cybernetics is the study of control, communication, and self-regulation in machines and living organisms. It is the science of how systems maintain stability in a chaotic environment. The most common cybernetic mechanism you interact with every single day is the thermostat mounted on your wall. If you understand the mechanical architecture of a thermostat, you will instantly, and perhaps painfully, understand why you are trapped in your current financial reality. Imagine a room. You set the thermostat in this room to exactly 70 degrees. It is the middle of winter. A blizzard strikes outside, and a window is left open. The temperature in the room plummets to 60 degrees. What happens? The thermostat's sensors detect the deviation from the programmed baseline. It instantly triggers a response. The furnace roars to life, burning fuel, pumping heat into the room until the ambient temperature rises back to exactly 70 degrees. Once the baseline is achieved, the furnace shuts off. The system is at rest. Now, imagine the opposite scenario. It is the middle of summer. A heat wave strikes. The temperature in the room spikes to 85 degrees. The thermostat senses the danger again. It triggers the air conditioning unit, blasting cold air, aggressively cooling the environment until it drops back down to that specific, programmed 70 degrees. The thermostat does not care about the weather outside. It does not care if fuel is expensive. It is blind to everything, except one prime directive: maintain the baseline. In the biological sciences, this process is known as homeostasis. It is the primitive, overwhelming drive of any organism to maintain a stable, constant internal environment, regardless of the chaos unfolding in the external world. Your subconscious mind is a highly advanced, ruthlessly efficient cybernetic mechanism, and whether you realize it or not, you possess a financial thermostat. Let us examine how this operates in your daily life. Suppose your internal, subconscious thermostat is set to $50,000 a year. This is the financial temperature at which your nervous system feels safe and familiar. If the economy crashes, or you lose your job, and your income drops to zero, the room has grown cold. Your internal furnace kicks in. You experience a massive physiological spike in anxiety. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. This stress chemical acts as fuel. You hustle. You make dozens of phone calls. You take extra, grueling shifts. You operate with a desperate, superhuman focus, fighting tooth and nail until you secure a new job and get your income back up to that $50,000 baseline. The moment you hit that number, you feel a profound sense of relief. You exhale. The furnace shuts off. You stop hustling. You return to your baseline habits. But here is the terrifying part. The part that keeps the intelligent, hard-working middle class trapped in a permanent cycle of mediocrity. What happens when the room gets too hot? What happens if, through sheer luck, a sudden promotion, or a speculative investment, you suddenly make $150,000? You have tripled your baseline. Consciously, you think you should be ecstatic. You think you have finally escaped the rat race. You think your life is permanently changed. But your subconscious mind does not feel joy. It feels panic. It senses a violent deviation from your psychological identity. $150,000 violates the programmed baseline. To your subconscious, this unfamiliar wealth feels dangerous. It triggers cognitive dissonance, a state of acute mental stress. Your brain views this excess money not as a blessing, but as a critical error in the system. And just like the air conditioning unit in the middle of a heat wave, your subconscious immediately kicks in to bring your financial temperature back down. How does it execute this cooling process? Through a brilliant, invisible, and highly destructive behavioral pattern known as self-sabotage. Suddenly, you feel an overwhelming, entirely rationalized urge to buy a luxury car you do not need, to impress people you do not even respect. You decide to make a highly speculative, foolish investment in a business you do not understand, driven by a sudden surge of false invincibility. Or, mysteriously, chaos erupts in your personal life. Your roof caves in, your car engine explodes. A distant family member suddenly needs a massive, unpayable loan. You start picking fights with your boss. You miss critical emails. You show up late to the most important meeting of the year. The money hemorrhages out of your life. Within 12 to 18 months, the excess cash is completely gone. You look at your bank account, and you are right back to the $50,000 baseline. You sigh. You blame the corrupt economy. You blame bad luck. And you tell yourself that life is just an endless, unfair struggle. It was not bad luck. It was a cybernetic correction. This mechanism is not a theory. It is a statistical reality. This is exactly why over 70% of lottery winners go completely bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. You can hand a man with a poverty thermostat $50 million, and his brain will work tirelessly, systematically, and ruthlessly to destroy that wealth until he is comfortable again. Poverty is his comfort zone. It is his familiar reality, and the human brain will always prefer a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. Where did this invisible thermostat setting come from? You did not consciously choose it. It was installed into your psychological hardware before you even possessed the capacity for rational, independent thought. Neuroscience reveals a disturbing truth about human development. From the moment you are born until approximately the age of 7, your brain operates primarily in a theta brainwave state. Theta is a slow frequency. It is the exact brainwave state achieved during deep hypnosis. During these first 7 years of your life, you have no analytical barrier. You do not possess a functioning System 2, the logical, critical thinking part of your brain. You are, quite literally, a biological tape recorder set to continuous record. You absorb the behaviors, the anxieties, the micro-expressions, and the unspoken beliefs of your parents and your immediate environment directly into your subconscious database. You download their reality as your own. Think back to your earliest childhood memories regarding money. What did you observe? Did your parents fight viciously about unpaid bills at the dinner table? Did your father come home physically exhausted and angry, complaining about the wealthy executives at his company? Did your mother sigh quietly in the grocery store aisle, putting items back on the shelf because they were a few cents too expensive? Did you constantly hear phrases like, "We are not made of money," or "Money does not grow on trees," or "Rich people are greedy"? You did not just witness these events as a passive observer. You downloaded them as the absolute, immutable laws of reality. You were infected with the poverty virus. This virus consists of deep-seated, conflicting convictions. If your psychological identity is built on the belief that you are a good, honest, hard-working, humble person, and simultaneously, you hold the virus belief downloaded from your parents that rich people are bad, greedy, and dishonest, you have created an unsolvable paradox within your own nervous system. Your brain is biologically designed to protect your core identity at all costs. It will look at wealth, look at your desire to be a millionaire, and calculate a terrifying equation. If I become rich, I become bad. If I become rich, my family will judge me. I will lose my tribe. Therefore, I must stay poor to remain good and safe. This conflict happens entirely beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. You will read countless books on business strategy. You will attend motivational seminars. You will try to start a new company. Consciously, you have one foot slammed on the gas pedal, pressing as hard as you can, desperately trying to accelerate toward wealth. But subconsciously, driven by the cybernetic need to protect your identity, you have the other foot slammed firmly on the brake. You are burning out your engine. You are generating massive amounts of smoke, stress, and noise, but you are moving absolutely nowhere. You cannot outwork your own identity. You cannot out-hustle a cybernetic system that is functioning exactly as it was programmed to function. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the temperature of the room by opening and closing windows. They try a new marketing tactic. They switch jobs. They start a new side hustle. They buy another course on e-commerce. They are carrying buckets of hot water into a freezing room, fighting a futile, exhausting battle against a thermostat that is working perfectly. The principle of riches is a harsh, sobering awakening. It dictates that external actions are utterly useless until the internal mechanism is dismantled. You cannot fix a software problem with a hardware solution. If you want to create permanent, generational wealth, you must perform open-heart surgery on your own belief system. You must locate the thermostat hidden deep within your subconscious, rip it off the wall, and rewire the circuitry. You must systematically identify the financial traumas and the toxic money scripts of your childhood, drag them into the harsh light of conscious awareness, and destroy them. You must stop trying to make more money and start doing the terrifying work of changing the person who makes the money. We have established the grim reality of your biological hardware. You are running on outdated, highly restrictive malware downloaded during your childhood. Your cybernetic thermostat is actively fighting your conscious desire for wealth. So, the ultimate question emerges. How do we break the code? How do we rewrite the operating system without triggering the subconscious alarm bells? The answer does not lie in mystical thinking. It lies in the hard science of neuroplasticity. For decades, the scientific community believed that the adult brain was a static, unchangeable organ. We believed that by the time you reach the age of 25, your neurological pathways were set in stone. You were hardwired for life. We now know this is entirely false. Your brain is not hardwired. It is soft-wired. Neuroplasticity is the brain's extraordinary ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your entire life. You can literally, structurally alter the physical landscape of your brain through focused attention and deliberate practice. But to do this, you must first bypass the analytical mind, System 2, and speak directly to the subconscious. This brings us to the most misunderstood, highly commercialized, and often ridiculed concept in personal development: visualization. When most analytical, highly intelligent people hear the word visualization, they immediately roll their eyes. They think of the law of attraction. They think of sitting on a couch, closing their eyes, wishing for a Ferrari, and expecting it to magically manifest in their driveway. That is delusion. That is magical thinking for the lazy. That is not how the principle of riches operates. Let us strip away the mysticism and look at what visualization actually is from a neurological perspective. It is not magic. It is neurological rehearsal. There is a fundamental principle in neuroscience known as Hebb's law. It states, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you have a thought, a specific network of neurons fires in your brain. If you repeat the same thought, I am broke, the economy is terrible, I will never get ahead, you are firing that specific network over and over again. Through repetition, Those neural pathways become physically thicker, faster, and more efficient. They become an unconscious baseline. To change the frequency, you must build a new neural network. Your brain, incredibly, cannot distinguish between a real, external event and a vividly imagined internal event. When a professional Olympic skier closes their eyes and visualizes their downhill run in microscopic detail, the exact same motor neurons fire in their brain as if they were physically on the mountain. They are laying down the neurological hardware for success before they even step into the snow. But here is where 99% of people fail when trying to reprogram their wealth thermostat. They try to visualize having money, but their physical body is still experiencing the chemical state of poverty. You cannot think about wealth while your body is flooded with cortisol and the anxiety of debt. A thought without an emotional signature is neurologically dead. Your thoughts are the electrical signal you send out, but your emotions are the magnetic field you draw back in. If your conscious thought says, "I am wealthy," but your underlying emotion is sheer, desperate terror because you cannot pay your rent, your subconscious mind detects the mismatch. It ignores the electrical thought and obeys the magnetic emotion. It says, "He is terrified." The reality is scarcity. Maintain the poverty thermostat. To successfully bypass the cybernetic alarm system, you must elevate your emotional state before the external environment changes. You must feel the profound relief, the deep gratitude, and the absolute security of wealth while you are still sitting in a cheap apartment with an empty bank account. This is arguably the most difficult psychological task a human being can undertake. You are demanding that your body abandon its survival instincts and trust a vision of the future that does not yet exist. When you close your eyes and vividly imagine the execution of a successful business deal, and you simultaneously force your body to feel the gratitude of that success, you are signaling your genes ahead of the environment. You are physically rewiring the reticular activating system, the bouncer at the door of your consciousness. By repeatedly coupling a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you change the parameters of the RAS. You instruct it to stop filtering for threats and start filtering for specific opportunities. Suddenly, the fog lifts. You walk into a room and notice a conversation you would have previously ignored. You read an article and instantly spot a market inefficiency. You see the red cars of wealth everywhere. The opportunities did not magically appear out of thin air. They were always there. You were simply functionally blind to them until you tuned your neurological receiver to their exact frequency. However, this internal recalibration is highly fragile. It is a newly planted seed in a very hostile environment. This brings us to the second, mandatory requirement for changing your financial frequency: the information diet. You cannot heal in the exact same toxic environment that made you sick. If you spend 20 minutes in the morning neurologically rehearsing success, but then spend the next 10 hours absorbing negativity, you are destroying your own work. Your subconscious mind is a sponge. It has no filter for truth. If you constantly consume catastrophic news media designed to trigger your amygdala and keep you in a state of high beta fear, you are reinforcing the poverty virus. If you surround yourself with cynical, defeated individuals who constantly complain about how the system is rigged, their words are acting as hypnotic suggestions, quietly reprogramming your thermostat back to a state of lack. Poverty is a highly contagious disease, transmitted through language and environment. You must become utterly ruthless about the inputs you allow into your brain. You must guard your attention with the same ferocity that a billionaire guards their bank vault. Your attention is the currency with which you purchase your future reality. Stop engaging in conversations about scarcity. Cut off the supply of outrage media. Distance yourself from people who drag your emotional frequency down to the level of survival. This is not about being arrogant or disconnected. It is about psychological self-preservation. If you wish to tune your dial to the frequency of wealth, you must immerse yourself in the environment of wealth. Read the biographies of those who have conquered the impossible. Listen to the language of people who operate from a state of abundance. Notice how they speak. They do not talk about obstacles. They talk about logistics. They do not talk about who is to blame. They talk about what is in their control. By changing your internal neurological rehearsal and fiercely curating your external environmental inputs, you slowly begin to dismantle the old cybernetic mechanism. You stop fighting the cold room, and you finally begin the permanent work of changing the thermostat itself. We have now reprogrammed the cybernetic thermostat. We have rewired the neural pathways using the science of neuroplasticity. We have fiercely guarded the gates of your perception against the virus of poverty. You might believe that the work is now complete. You might believe that if you simply maintain this elevated emotional and neurological state, the universe will magically deposit millions of dollars into your bank account while you sleep. This is the final and perhaps the most dangerous delusion. This is the graveyard of the naive. Here is the merciless truth of the physical dimension. Frequency without friction is merely a hallucination. To bridge the gap between the invisible architecture of your mind and the material reality of wealth, you must introduce the final variable in the equation. You must introduce the law of action. Many people who discover the concepts of mental reprogramming use them as a sophisticated excuse for laziness. They engage in spiritual bypassing. They meditate for hours. They visualize success. They construct elaborate vision boards, and then they sit on their couch, waiting for a miracle. They treat the universe like a cosmic vending machine. But the physical world operates strictly on the laws of thermodynamics and cause and effect. Money is a physical representation of stored energy and exchanged value. To acquire it, you must become a conduit. You must move matter. You must physically interact with the marketplace. However, the principle of riches introduces a critical distinction that separates the exhausted masses from the ultra-wealthy. The distinction is not in the volume of action taken, but in the psychological origin of that action. We must return to the concept of force versus flow. When you operate from the baseline of a poverty thermostat, your actions are driven by the frantic energy of survival. You are operating out of fear. You hate your job, but you work 70 hours a week because you are terrified of starvation. You start a business not because you want to solve a problem, but because you are desperately running away from debt. Action taken from a frequency of scarcity is chaotic, reactive, and violently inefficient. It is like trying to drive a car with the parking brake fully engaged. You will burn the engine, you will destroy the transmission, and you will eventually collapse from sheer biological exhaustion. But when you have successfully tuned your internal receiver to the frequency of abundance, the nature of your action fundamentally changes. You do not stop working. In fact, you will likely work harder and longer than you ever have before. But the internal experience of that labor is entirely different. It no longer feels like suffering. It feels like an obsession. You are no longer reacting to fear. You are responding to inspiration. Because your reticular activating system is now filtering for opportunity, you begin to see massive, glaring inefficiencies in the marketplace. You see complex problems that other people are complaining about, but because your prefrontal cortex is fully engaged and your amygdala is quiet, you do not complain. You view these problems as puzzles waiting to be monetized. You take action to build a system, a product, or a service that solves that specific pain point for other human beings. You are no longer trying to extract money from the world. You are injecting massive value into it, and money simply becomes the automatic, logical byproduct of that value creation. Operating from this elevated frequency gives you the ultimate competitive advantage: emotional detachment from the outcome. When a desperate man invests in a business and it fails, it destroys him. His identity is tied to the money. His thermostat plummets, his cortisol spikes, and he retreats back to his miserable comfort zone. But when a man operating from the frequency of wealth launches a project and it fails, he does not flinch. He views the failure as pure data. His biological survival is not threatened because his internal reality is already secure. He calmly analyzes the mechanics of the failure, adjusts his strategy, and immediately deploys a new iteration. He can take calculated, massive risks that paralyze ordinary people. He is playing a game of chess, while everyone else is fighting in a street brawl. Action is the mechanism through which your internal frequency manifests into material reality. You must put your hands in the dirt. You must build the machine. You must make the cold calls. You must launch the code. But when you do these things from a state of absolute psychological certainty, the friction disappears. You are no longer forcing the world to bend to your will. You are allowing your prepared mind to effortlessly exploit the physics of the market. This is the ultimate evolution of the human operating system. You are no longer a victim of the childhood programming that infected your nervous system. You are no longer a hostage to a cybernetic thermostat that kept you freezing in the dark. You have stepped out of the hypnotic trance of the middle class. You now understand that wealth is not a matter of luck, geography, or sheer grinding labor. It is a matter of biological mastery. It requires the ruthless auditing of your own beliefs, the deliberate construction of new neural architectures, and the relentless execution of inspired action. The world is a mirror, reflecting exactly what you are biologically programmed to expect. Change the program, and you force the mirror to change the reflection. You now possess the architecture of the 1%. The tools are in your hands. The blueprint is clear. The only remaining variable is your courage to execute. This has been an exploration of the underlying mechanics of wealth. Do not simply listen to this information and return to your familiar baseline. Use it to dismantle the invisible prison in your mind. This is Clean Slate Audiobook. Your reality has been reset. Now, go build your empire.